Hello again, RoyZesch.REALTOR here with Coldwell Banker Legacy in San Angelo. Today I want to do the final installment of my series on rural property. I want to talk about the uses of the property and then the lenders you can use, because the lenders are going to be different when you're dealing with rural properties. So the first question we'll talk about today, which really should have been one of the first questions we talked about in the beginning, is the use of the property. So when you start out the process, one of the first things you're thinking about is, how am I going to use this property? Are you going to use it as residential property that you're going to live on? Yeah, you want to have cows, horses, whatever on it, but your primary purpose is to live on it. Or is it going to be primarily for agriculture use, whether it's farming or ranching or some combination of both? Is it going to be for hunting, for personal use, recreational type use like that, fishing if it's on water and stuff like that? Or is it going to be for some sort of business? Even in some of those things, there can be a hunting business or those type of things. So you just got to think about that. That really kind of sets, when you start the process, what you're going to be looking at. That and your budget is really the place to begin the whole process. So that's really all of it in a nutshell, is figuring out what you're wanting to do with the property. And by figuring out what you want to do, then that helps me understand what kind of properties we're going to be looking at, and just start narrowing it down and figuring out, okay, let's go look at this one, let's look at this one, or particularly if they've done videos and good pictures of these properties. You can do a lot of this without ever leaving your home. So we can look at the properties online, we can call and ask questions of the agents that have them listed if there's necessary, if there's things we don't know, and just verify that it fits your uses. So again, the use is the very critical first step of the process. So finding the property that fits the uses you want to and your budget. So then let's talk a little bit about lenders. When you go to borrow money on rural properties, it can be a good bit different. When you're looking at a house on a lot in town, those properties, there's multitude of lenders, local, internet-based, whatever, doing all kinds of stuff out there. But the reason for that is that there's a secondary market for those. So what you go to a lender, and even the local banks that are in the lending business, a lot of them don't actually hold on to those loans. They turn around and sell those loans to the secondary market. And through Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, government agencies and stuff, those are packaged in groups and sold to investors as investments. And so whichever lender you're going to, there's a good chance they're going to do that. There are some local banks that will hold on to a certain percentage of the loans, or the loans they like. I don't know what their criteria are exactly. That's one of the things they decide. But they will hold on to a certain amount of the loans and service them themselves and own them. But the vast majority of the loans are sold out onto the secondary market. And so because of that, they're packaged in such a way, and they have to fit very narrow criteria, but there's also many lenders that can do it for you. When you start talking about rural property and the use affects what you're looking at as well here, then it's a different ball game. Really, in this point, you're looking at a small group of lenders. The local area banks are real good at this. They're better than this in West Texas and whatnot. They're the ones that know what's going on. In San Angelo, we really only have one locally owned bank, or one Tom Green County owned bank, and that's Texas Bank. But there's a lot of the local areas that have banks that have moved into San Angelo and have branches here out of Ballinger, Sonora, Mertzen, Ozona, Paint Rock, Miles, all those, many of those that have branches here in Angelo. And because those are local West Texas banks, they have a pretty good idea of how land works, and they're a good source for stuff like that. So that's one of the first places you want to look at. And again, if it's residential, depending on the value of the house relative to the value of the property, it's not a big deal. You can even go to a lot of the normal standard lenders. But if it's any use other than residential, that gets to be a bigger issue. So, and even if it's a farm, ranch, something like that, use those same banks. Sometimes it falls into their commercial department, depending on who handles it at those banks. So that's that. The other thing is, if it's land, there's Capital Farm Credit is a great resource for land lending. And again, they used to be called the Federal Land Bank. So land is the big thing that they look at in their loans. So if you have a $400,000 house on a $500,000 piece of property, it usually doesn't fit them real well. But if you have a $400,000 house on a $5 million piece of property, that's perfectly fine. The value of the land relative to the value of the improvements is one of the factors that they look at when deciding whether they'll take the loans. And they can offer good rates. It's kind of a cooperative system where you actually own part of it by having a loan through them. There's some money back and some potential things like that. And then if it's a for-profit business, particularly in agriculture, then there's some other lenders that can do it. Ray Burns at Raybo Ag is one local one that you can deal with. It's very good. So anyway, it's a different group of lenders to a large extent than what it is when you're looking at a residential property, particularly if a residential property in town on a normal city lot or something. So it's important that you understand that, and that you have an opportunity to talk with me. We can go through the process of understanding that and getting a pre-approval from someone who knows what you're talking about and can actually help you when it comes down to the time to get it done. So that's really all I have now on this subject. So I'm sure I'll think of more things later. Oh man, I should have talked about that. And we'll have some more videos later on rural properties. But for now, that's all. Give me a call if you got questions. RoyZesch.REALTOR, 325-268-0775. Thank you.